I work in the restaurant industry, and I've come across some pretty interesting people. Kitchens, I feel in particular, are the underworld of the service industry, often employing people with fringe elements. To put it briefly, people who are running from something in their past and want a sense of structure in their chaotic lives. I've worked with many interesting people, to say the least. Drug addicts, strays, social outcasts, and ex-convicts. There's a certain level of fear knowing that someone previously charged with aggravated assault is working right next to you in a fast-paced, high-stress environment. At any moment, that person could snap and take that 8-inch knife he was using to chiffonade basil and slit your throat if you pissed him off during the dinner rush. My good chef, who worked at many 5-star restaurants in Toronto, had many interesting stories to tell while we had beers after a crazy day at work. One of them was about an old guy named Michael Verney, a rather friendly old man, but quiet, and kept to himself for the most part. He always showed up on time, did his job, and went home. He was a great cook, but there was something that seemed off about him. Within his first week, all the cooks in the kitchen teased him and called him Vinny, the serial killer. He was a good sport about it though, and was witty enough to dish it out as well, making him a respected member of the crew. Vinny would laugh, take it all in good stride, and often play along with the rest of the cooks. Those jokes were all in good fun, until recently. You see, his real name is Michael Wentworth, and in February 2019, Michael was charged in Kingston, Ontario for 3 murders spanning between 1995 and 2001. But that's not the only thing he's been convicted of. He's been linked to numerous crimes and has been convicted of armed robbery, disguised with intent, and possession of an explosive device, to name a few. It's crazy to think that any one of us could be working alongside a murderer who seems like a totally normal person. So, Michael Wentworth? Let's not me.
So, this happened a while back, and I thought I'd share this here. Me and my boyfriend at the time were living in the semi-spacious studio apartment that belonged to his dad. We just moved back from England and needed somewhere to stay while we looked for a new place. It was newly renovated, and we had to be out of there pretty quickly because his dad wanted to start renting it out. There was no way we were able to afford the full rent for this place, so we just gave him what we could spare, and I guess his dad wasn't all too hot on the idea of his son and girlfriend, 18 and 21 at the time, living there, being as young and stupid as we were together. It was on the 3rd floor, and he recently got a permit to build a roof deck outside. You can walk onto it through the kitchen, and it's kind of level with the neighbor's bedroom window. We were aware that it must have felt a little invasive, so we tried to be considerate about how late we went out on it and about noise and stuff. The tension started to grow between us when we were outside on a Saturday night, having a smoke and just talking at a reasonable volume. Then suddenly we hear a harrowing,
"Will you both shut the fuck up and go the fuck back inside?"
I looked at my boyfriend and just burst out laughing. I looked around to see where it was coming from, and it was an old sweaty hippo of a man, peering out of his window, gasping for air as he looked at us. He looked as though he was about to kill us. My then boyfriend said,
"Mate, you could also just ask us normally to keep the noise down."
To which he started spewing countless obscenities and barking at us to go back inside. We didn't want his dad to get any complaints about us, so we just went back into the house. Several days later, we get a phone call from his dad saying that the neighbor had called him, saying we were blasting music all weekend, screaming and had lots of people over. He said he had to call the police. The thing is, even if he had called the police, we would have been none the wiser because we weren't even there. That Sunday morning, we were going out of town for a few days, so it made no sense. Over the course of a few weeks, every time we'd go out to water the plants on the deck or hang up some clothing we had washed, he would use any excuse to shout abuse at us. It was fucking traumatizing.
The pressure on your hose is too high. Your clothes are fucking blocking my sunlight.
And some mornings we would eat out on the deck, and he would complain about the noise of our cutlery clinking on the plates. It was ridiculous. He would constantly tell us how the roof deck shouldn't even be there. So we gave him a copy of the approved permit. Anyway, one afternoon we were kind of getting busy on the couch. Nothing too R-rated, but enough to maybe think of getting curtains that weren't as see-through as ours. So we're doing our thing, and out of nowhere, my boyfriend looks up and out the window, and his face just drops. He gets up and walks towards the window.
What the fuck?
I jump out of my skin and ask him what's wrong, but before he would answer me, he leapt out the window and onto the deck and started banging on our neighbor's window. What just happened? I asked him.
He was fucking filming us. I could see a blinking red light through his blinds, fam.
I was just like, no freaking way. I genuinely didn't believe it at the time and told him it was probably something else. Quite understandably, he wouldn't let it go. My boyfriend would go out at night and try to look through his window for filming gear. You could only see so far back into his room, so there was no actual certainty that he had any of that stuff. My neighbor, that is. And one day, my neighbor left his window open, so I guess he wasn't home. Bear in mind, this was over the course of several weeks. My boyfriend actually climbed halfway through his window, standing on the garden table, and just freaked. At the end of the room, there was just this wall of videotapes with all these dates and names written on them, and loads of heavy-duty camera equipment at the end of his bed. We called the police and told them we were being stalked. Maybe it was just a coincidence at the time, but I think our suspicions were justified considering his character. He was just an all-out horrible and creepy guy, and if he had footage of me half naked, I wasn't going to take that chance. The police informed us that we didn't have sufficient proof that he was filming us, but that they would question him. Without any real evidence, they weren't able to get a warrant to search his house for the tapes. Damn. So, after a while, we decided the only way to do this was to catch him in the act. It was pretty calm between us for a while. After we involved the police, he stopped bothering us, but I still wanted those tapes. One night, we just got back from dinner, and as we're about to go to bed, we hear this knock at the door. It's our other neighbor, who was super cool. They asked us about the neighbor we were having issues with. Total understatement. The whole street knew we were on bad terms. Everyone usually kept to themselves, but they all hated this guy. We told her the whole story, and after talking to her for a while, she offered to call the police and tell them she witnessed him filming us. The police came around the next day and informed us that with our neighbor's testimony, they were able to acquire a warrant to search his apartment. A few days later, we watched the entire thing go down. 2 police officers showed up to his apartment, gave him a letter, and we just watched the whole thing. An hour or so later, he was arrested, and that was that. We didn't hear anything back from the cops for a while, until we got a call saying that he had been filming us for months. He had footage of us eating, of us napping on the couch, me getting changed, my boyfriend working out. It sent shivers down my spine. Not only was I absolutely furious, but really freaked out. We pressed charges, and eventually he got a few months jail time. We eventually moved out, but I never found out what they did with the tapes. I think they're probably in an evidence locker now. But yeah, to the crazy asshole who stalked and terrorized us for months on end, let's never meet again.
When I was 12, me and a group of my friends would play hide and seek in these woods that were on the edge of our neighborhood. We would always play around 6, but had to be back home by 10:30 at the latest on a weekend, and we weren't allowed to go so far in the woods that we couldn't see our houses. Those were the only rules that our parents set out for us. Well, one Friday we were out playing in the woods, as per usual, and I, for whatever reason, decided to go deeper into the woods. I can't remember how far I went into those woods exactly, but I do remember coming across an old shack. I considered using it as a hiding place, but then I thought that they would come this deep in the woods to look for me, so I decided to head back. However, when I started to head back, I turned my head to look at the shack one last time, and for a split second, I saw someone peeking out of the door. Whoever it was quickly turned their head back when they saw me. I didn't pay too much attention to it and headed back. About halfway through my walk, I hear, "Psst, hey kid, come over here." I looked back and saw an old man hiding behind a tree, gesturing me to come to him. I knew better and took off running. While I was running, I heard him yelling, "Wait," and I could also hear sounds of his footsteps running after me. And when I got to the end of the woods, I ran into my friends who were wondering where I was. I told them to get out of the woods, and we ran to our friend's house. I told them what happened, and eventually I told my mom what happened too. Our parents called the police and searched the woods for the old man, but I don't know if they found him or not. Our parents never let us play in those woods again, and after that, even if they did, I don't think I'd ever go back. So, old man living in a shack in the woods, let's not meet again.
Please leave your message